You have to be careful about making a weird show or watching a weird show.
Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. Joined today, as I frequently am, by Smiling Giles Edwards.
Hi, everyone.
And there he is. And later today, we should be joined, all things going technically perfect, by Julian Glander, the director and animator behind the new critically acclaimed independent animation Boys Go to Jupiter, which Giles has reviewed for the site and I have also seen, and we'll maybe discuss that a little bit before the interview just to set things up. But in the meantime, we're going to go over the week's new releases, a short slate of these. I have 6 pictures of varying levels of interest, and let me get those stills up there. Giles, can you see the spread there?
I can see the spread.
Okay. Well, let's see what we're going to start off with. We're going to start off with this one.
All right.
Poster, a very simple poster for you to describe for our non-seeing audience.
Well, there's a considerable use of negative space. This poster is predominantly white. Top 40% covered by various text pertaining to the future, and taking up not quite 2/3 from the bottom up is a profile view of a much make-upped dancer. The only color on this poster is the red of her lips as she lifts her chin artistically or defiantly. Couldn't say, haven't seen this. She's got her hair done up formally with a little bob down by the base of her neck and a sort of planty, crowny looking adornment in her hair there. We can see, so we see her eye with stripes of makeup and heavily done up eyebrow. And toward the bottom, some flourish of feather, and I'm going to guess maybe some of the outfit, perhaps even a ballerina outfit, as this is, I think, a movie that pertains to that profession.
Wow. Okay. Well, you really haven't seen it if you only think it pertains to ballet, because it's Black Swan, which of course is entirely about ballet. It's a Natalie Portman is a ballerina dancing in Swan Lake, and this was kind of a hit, Giles. I'm surprised you haven't seen it, or at least aren't familiar with the plot. It did win an Oscar.
I suppose if I had been pressed and I didn't have decades of history of hedging my bets, I probably would have made the stab that this was a ballerina movie, but
by Darren Aronofsky, not the person you would expect. It's a psychological horror that somehow won an Oscar for Natalie Portman's performance, which certainly is deserving. She is in the film a ballerina, as I've said, who maybe has too much of a good girl vibe to her and needs a little grittiness to truly embrace the transformation into the Black Swan part. And there are some Vincent Cassel and Mila Kunis are there to help her embrace her dark side so that she can do the dance. Pretty much that's what we got there. It is being re-released in IMAX. It was not originally shot in IMAX, so that is, it's something. I don't know how it comes across. I don't know the technical details of how that transfer is going to do. If it's just going to should be shown on a bigger screen, if they really, reworked it to get it to IMAX standards or not, I really have no idea. We need to speak to a projectionist about that. But if only we had one we could have called. And it is in theaters, well, today, as we record, which is a day before you will see it, but also you'll have another chance on the 24th only to see Black Swan in IMAX in theaters re-released. Any further thoughts there, Giles?
Nope, I haven't seen it, but I wish him luck. I'm sure it's a fine motion picture.
It is a fine motion picture for sure. And now I have lost control of my screen. And I don't know why. Well, that's getting larger and smaller. Say something about Darren Aronofsky in general, Giles.
Darren Aronofsky is a filmmaker noted for lots of stuff that is of high quality, such as I certainly don't type his name into
Well, Giles.
here.
Giles.
Oh, okay, this guy. Yeah, I've seen
oversight on your
this
part.
guy. Well, his profile pic on IMDb shows a great mustache, that's for sure. Yes, probably most noted, as I would better remember if I were that kind of person. Pi, which I rewatched after decades and reviewed for the 366 Weird Movies Canonical Volume.
Yes, I knew you'd seen something by Darren Aronofsky. You surely.
Yeah. Also adamantly avoided another of his movies for decades, Requiem for a Dream, having been very popular among a large chunk of my college buddies. And it just seemed, the premise seemed real depressing.
Requiem for a Dream is kind of depressing, yes. But it's still a very fine movie. Let's get on to the next one. Can you see? Have I restored the screen?
I can see. This looks like
all right. Describe this promotional spread.
All right. This is for a Blu-ray that's got a slip cover that seems to have slightly different picture than the Blu-ray cover, something I always appreciate because I often wondered why have a slip cover with the exact same image so you remove it to see the exact same thing beneath. Just one more piece of the product to get dinged up and worn down, but these things are different. And inside the slipcover, it looks like there's, I don't know, I'm going to say maybe a stack of lobby style cards. One of them has the profile of I believe the lead actress in this movie, looking somewhere between sincere and sinister, which judging from the trailer, I'm guessing is appropriate. And centered at the bottom of the image in front of this is the disc, which looks like its image recreates a portion of the sleeve image, albeit smaller and rounder.
Yes, and the name?
The name is Perpetrator.
And the who's releasing it?
It's the good people at Arrow Video.
Arrow Video, so that's exciting. And it's from director.
Oh, I know. I've seen something of hers.
Jennifer Reeder.
Jennifer Reeder, yes.
You've seen Knives and Skin, as I have seen Knives of Skin.
Mm-hmm.
And L. Rob Hubbard saw Knives and Skin, and when we discussed this film when it was out in theaters. And I hate to say it, but none of us actually liked Knives and Skin.
Though I think it might have been for different reasons, so that could be saying something for that movie. This looks far more interesting to me.
Yeah, this is more of a straightforward horror movie. Jennifer Reeder is often described, and she is described in the trailer as David Lynch meets John Hughes. So she's always doing these, she's done like 2 features, maybe 3. But they're set in high school among fairly realistically depicted non-glamorous high schoolers, yet strange David Lynchian things happen to these characters. And so this is another one. It looks like, based on the pictures and the trailer, there is, if not a literal vampire, it's a very vampire-like character being played by the lead here. The ad copy reads, "From the exquisite mind of Jennifer Reeder comes Perpetrator, a brilliantly original and twisted take on female suppression, dangerous male predators, and the pains of adolescence, with a stunning lead performance from Kia McKiernan," assuming I've pronounced her name correctly. On the eve of her 18th birthday, wild and rebellious Johnny is sent by her father to live with her estranged Aunt Hildy, played by Alicia Silverstone, where she begins to experience a radical metamorphosis, and so on. Definitely a horror outing and reportedly weird. Giles, any takeaways from that trailer?
It certainly looked, despite visiting similar themes as her earlier film Knives and Skin that I saw, it does look rather different. That may be in part because this is a Shudder production, and that has certain promises that go along with it. I know from Knives and Skin that Jennifer Reeder can direct a movie that has all the right process level things going on. So there's a fairly high floor of competence I expect from her, despite not really enjoying that other movie. And it looks like that is continued here. And of course, getting a wonderful alum of teenage girl movies, Alicia Silverstone, on board for this obviously is a good sign.
Yeah, that was good casting for sure. The Blu-ray is a limited edition Blu-ray here from Arrow, and I'll mention some of the things it has on it: a video essay, a audio commentary by Jennifer Reeder herself with her director of photography, whose name I am not going to attempt to pronounce, except that the last one looks like Castrati, which I'm not sure is a real name or a pseudonym.
Yeah, I guess it could go either way, considering what that is.
Yeah, and more importantly, perhaps it contains 2 music videos that Jennifer Reeder directed from bands I'm not familiar with, Aitis and Joan of Arc, and 3 short films. So that's an additional like 45 minutes of Jennifer Reeder content besides the movie that most folks have probably never seen. So if you like Knives and Skin, you'll probably want to check this one out, and we will check it out ourselves at some point likely, and keep our fingers crossed that we like it better, because she definitely had a style that led me to believe she had a really great weird movie in her somewhere, if we can just get it out. Would you agree with that, Giles?
Oh, yes. It's my criticism of the movie of hers I've seen had everything to do with the story, and it's not the director's job to make a movie with a story that I like every time. So,
all right, let's discuss these 2 as a pair. We have 2 Blu-ray covers for you here, Giles. Give them a shot.
I will try. All right, starting with the left-hand one, I love the font for the title. It's some combination of like circus balloon animal shaped text with a grim red tied to it, as is appropriate for the title in question. And the cover is sort of a V formation of lithe young women done in a not certainly a dark cartoonish style, I'd say, with a front and center a deeply purple toned individual with pursed red lips and vacant eyes and a sort of short haircut, and flanking her, going back in the image are 2 further women in various states of not that much clothing. And I think in the background you can see this sort of dark, shadowy blue tone outlines of a terraced kind of, I'm going to guess, graveyard or some sort of place where you stick dead bodies for the past 5 centuries looking kind of place. So that's on the left. On the right, a bit simpler, mostly black. There's a pair of headlights on a car, ever so barely illuminating a cobblestone road, and a female form, presumably running from these headlights, all done up in a gold bronze kind of color scheme. She may be wearing clothing I couldn't rightly say, but her hair is waving back in obvious motion, and I'm gonna say she's got like a 8 or 12 pack of abs going on for her there, which will no doubt this fitness will no doubt help her out in her escape from whatever's pursuing her.
Right. That is a see-through nightie, it appears to be, that really hides absolutely nothing. These are two films from a single director being released by Indicator on 4K UHD, and that director is
Jean Rollin.
what a pronunciation. That's
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
thing of beauty. I'd call him Gene Roland. Jean Rollin.
Gene Rollin, I could see being a minor country music star from the 50s.
Yeah, rockabilly, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, these are Lips of Blood, the one on the left with the cemetery imagery, and Night of the Hunter, the one on the
Night
right.
of the Hunted.
Hunted, sorry, not to be confused with Night of the Hunter, because it's not anything like Night of the Hunter. With the cover featuring the star of that film, the shapely Brigitte Lahaye, who is nearly nude in this image, which may test the limits of our, well, both test the limits of our PG rating, but certainly the one on the right, the Night of the Hunter.
We're squarely into pre-1980 PG, because you could get away with quite a lot before PG-13.
They changed what the ratings meant. So, yes. So, as to these two movies, I'm going to assume you have seen neither.
You assume correctly. I have seen. I must have seen a Jean Rollin movie at some point because he directed so many, and I've watched movies for so long. I did see the lovely documentary about him about 4 or 5 years ago at Fantasia. It seems Indicator wants to release everything he ever did. So
yes, since you've seen the documentary, you've likely seen these movies in some format.
Yeah.
Lips of Blood was 1975, one of his later and last-ish vampire movies in his vampire cycle. He would come back to revisit the vampires in Two Orphan Vampires, his last movie, but pretty much he had drained the corpse dry at this point. Lips of Blood is the least interesting of his vampire movies to me, and I think most people would probably, going out on a limb, most people would probably agree. It's kind of him going through the motions one more time. Nice thing about it is it does have the Castell twins back, and it's always nice to see those two ladies in a Rollin movie. But to be honest, Lips of Blood, not one of the first Rollin movies I would go to. One that, if you want to be a completist, well, you pick up Lips of Blood at some point. Night of the Hunted, I like a lot better. It's a much more original story for Rollin. Very sexy still, but it has, the idea is that Brigitte Lahaye, along with some other characters, suffer from a very short-term memory. So they only remember like the last minute of what happened. And it's got some wonderful photography and, again, very sexy, as the cover would indicate, and very paranoid. Much better movie than Lips of Blood. We had discussed this before, although you were off, Giles, on that episode when it came out just on Blu-ray. Now it's been upgraded to the 4K UHD version. As always, from Indicator, it's going to have a ton of special features.
Yeah, looking at this, you got at least another hour's worth of stuff to watch from the various interviews they've pulled together for, looks like most of the main people involved in production. So,
Well, yes. Did you any other things that you know about either of these movies, Giles, that you can?
I must admit that my knowledge of Jean Rollin oeuvre is limited. So no.
Okay. Well, again, I would recommend Night of the Hunted and not recommend Lips of Blood except to the completist. Night of the Hunted, by the way, released in 1980, which allows us to transfer or to segue into our next movie.
Seamlessly.
Is very similar to Night of the Hunted in that there is a blonde character in it, and it was made in 1980.
Yes, that's probably where the connection stops.
Yes. Describe this Blu-ray or 4K UHD cover.
4K UHD. Well, it splashes a couple of very big names within the genre of, I'll give you the hint, musical here. There's a sort of Metropolis-themed future deco backdrop of spiry kind of glassy structure, and above it is I guess a future Gothic kind of font for the film title, which references a famous poem. And yes, almost looking like a kind of bedazzled angel. Taking up the bottom third or so of the image here is a blonde with her hair sort of wafted out. Delightful face with her dark eyeliner makeup, augmenting just how pale and blonde she is.
Yes, and the movie is
Xanadu.
And her co-star, not featured on the cover there, is Gene Kelly, who I believe was 68 at the time when he made this, and I think it may have been his last movie.
That is lamented by the 366 reviewer Scott Centinella for the capsule treatment back 8 years ago.
Yes, and Scott Centinella in his review didn't think that this was a weird movie.
He seemed to think it was a crummy movie.
Well, a lot of people think it's a crummy movie. And while I'll take Scott at his word, it's a little hard to grasp that, having seen some clips in the trailer of this movie. Perhaps it's not thoroughly weird end to end, and perhaps a lot of the weirdness is simply coming from the fact that it's outdated, but it strikes me as very bizarre looking.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of movie by the end of which I'd feel very odd without being able to give enough evidence from the process to say, it should be put in the canon.
Yeah, while it has the structure of an ordinary movie or an ordinary musical, as we've been told, and would expect from it being a major Hollywood release, it is set. It's a musical that's set in the sort of roller disco specifically world, which was, if you don't know, roller disco probably the craze. I mean, the disco craze lasted what, maybe 5 years, and the roller disco part of the disco craze was probably closer to 5 months, and probably was already over by the time they released this in 1980 and already looked dated. But that's what they chose to go with. They chose to memorialize this point in time. I will say that although not having seen the music, the soundtrack isn't bad. It's got Olivia Newton-John, of course, and ELO is on there, and
Cliff Richard. Yeah, there's a pretty, if you don't like what they're doing, sure, that's fine. That's one thing, but what they're doing, they do very, very well.
Yeah, you've probably heard the song,
yes.
Having seen this. Xanadu. Um,
I imagine most people your generation, Greg, know that sequence of notes for Xanadu.
oh yeah, it was. Yes, was exposed to it at. I would have been 12 when this came out, so I was exposed to it. And I used to go to the roller rink
Oh,
when I was about that age. So,
okay.
although we never did any roller disco, maybe they did play YMCA a lot, though.
No. Well, it's that the greater disco genre. I enjoy it, but I admit that there's a bit of easy to see a bit of camp that pervades much of it.
Yes, so this would be a very campy movie. The disco got, boy, it was hot, and then it became camp overnight. I mean, just like that. I've never seen a like pop culture movie go from being the in thing to being absolute camp so fast. It's like in a year after it was over, it was already looked, so incredibly dated. So that's Xanadu. You can watch it on 4K Ultra UHD. Did you see the trailer, by the way, Giles,
I
or any
did see the
clips?
trailer, and yeah, it looked exactly as we've been discussing.
Yeah, there's crazy sets, and there's a George Lucas style industrial lights and magic effects on the characters, and a lot of glitter, and it just looks pretty wild. But I've never, although I've known about this movie for years, I've never taken the plunge and watched it. So maybe now is a good excuse to. Although maybe I'll just pass on it for the rest of my life. Um, but that's Xanadu. Let's go to the last of the minor
Whoa.
releases here. So much text here, you don't have to describe it. We have a strip of stills. This is a back cover
Yeah.
of the Blu-ray. You want to quickly describe like something we see there?
Yeah, okay. So as Greg said, this is a wall of text. I'm going to guess a little over a tenth of the back of this has any images, and those are subdivided between, it looked like, 5 pictures, 4 of which are just sort of headshots of various characters in states of, let's see, snarky explanatory expression ranging to, oh, excuse me, I didn't quite see that. Okay, so that's 4. Maybe. I don't know. It's unclear. There's a young blonde in distress through the machinations of an older woman to her right, our left. There's a center shot of some guy who I'm guessing is a male lead in here. There's a kind of maybe martial arts thing in front of a glamorous pillared candelabra backdrop with someone on the far right-hand side of that image raising their hand to a chandelier. And far right image-wise is, I don't know, maybe a black or Latina woman in her 40s tilting her head with a look of incredulity.
Okay, well, and this is actually the back cover for Drag Me to Hell.
That's
Um,
busy.
the characters you see there, the first picture of the old woman and the blonde, they get in a knockdown, drag out fight, which is kind of the highlight of the movie, using office supplies as weapon. The guy in the center left is Justin Long, the male lead. The female lead is Alison Lohman. Both of them went on to significant careers. So Justin Long, in particular, specializing in horror films, being in Barbarian and also Kevin Smith's Tusk,
Mm.
where he was turned into a walrus, famously. It is a movie. I'll read just some of the text back here. Christine Brown, Alison Lohman, is on her way to having it all: a devoted boyfriend, Justin Long, a hard-earned job promotion, and a bright future. But when she has to make a tough decision that evicts an elderly woman from her house, she becomes the victim of an evil curse. Now she has only 3 days to dissuade a dark spirit from stealing her soul for eternity of an unthinkable torment. Evil Dead trilogy director Sam Raimi made his return to the horror vengeance with a vengeance, horror genre with a vengeance, with Drag Me to Hell. which critics hailed as the most crazy fun, terrifying horror movie in years. And it was indeed a lot of fun. PG horror movie, very strong overtones of Night of the Demon from the 50s, which had the cursed plot where somebody had to pass a piece of paper to pass the curse from one person to another, but you had to do it in a certain way. And Drag Me to Hell is not, I'll tell you, the title is not misleading, so let's just leave it at that. But here it comes out with a new 4K scan, presented in Dolby Vision, and I believe it has two more discs, a disc full of, with the unrated version, and a lot of new special features, and then the theatrical version on a third disc. So you got 3 discs, 2 Blu-rays, 1 4K UHD, some new features, all new scans though. Lots of special features in that one. Not really a weird movie from Sam Raimi, very distant sort of echoes of the Evil Dead series in a more PG-13 kind of Cineplex-friendly presentation, but still a fun movie and one that I reviewed. Any last thoughts on this one, Giles?
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever. It has a very nice barcode in the upper right-hand corner, I will say.
Oh, that's really
Yeah.
Yep, that's right there. That's actually, I think, the biggest picture on the back of the box.
Yeah, let's can you see?
Yeah, I can see this. Oh.
Now we're on to a new one. So let me resize this image. So those were all the releases this week. The Black Swan re-release and the 5 physical media releases that we had to discuss. And we just, in the little time we have remaining before we bring on director Julian Glander, thought we would talk a little bit about Boys Go to Jupiter. And we have this still there. Giles,
Yeah.
you want to describe for folks what we're looking at there?
Yeah, we got 2 young folk. I happen to know they're in their mid-teens, and they're seated atop a stylized sunny side up fried egg that is acting as a sign for, I'm guessing, the
Wafels.
dining establishment just below it. It's mostly sky of a sort of pinkish to purple with a few white wispy clouds, and the dominant feeling of this image is a particular kind of early to mid 90s computer animation.
Which technically is Blender animation.
I guess Blender, you can do all manner of amazing things with it, and the director chose to do this throwback look, which fits the movie very nicely.
Yes, I have no idea about the actual software, and I don't know if that's something we'll discuss with him. Looking at this picture, one of the things when I watch this movie, and you can describe the plot in a moment, but all this animation strikes me as very geometric in it. It's all very sort of regular shapes and figures, and I think that gives it kind of an otherworldly feel to it. Perhaps I'm imagining that, but that's something I see.
No, that was a part of the impression I got when I watched this, was just how, different. It's a very certainly to any contemporary eyes who either haven't seen this kind of look for decades or have never really seen it before. It is a very distinct visual experience.
Do you want to describe the plot for folks?
Sure, I'll lift from my review here. It's winter break in Florida, and teenage dropout Billy 5000 is gigging to get $5,000, but instead finds a donut-shaped alien creature. So it's about this 15-year-old boy, math genius. He drops out because he wants to get money. He's following this influencer who's got various mantras and hot tips about moolah, and so that's his ambition. And meanwhile, these other things are happening around him that kind of draw him into their, the various machinations, including some aliens. And
the aliens are the most probably important.
a juice factor, a major sort of juice distribution factory concern that is an open secret from early on in the film is it run by a dolphin?
Is it run by a dolphin? Let's leave that as a question.
No,
Um, because it might not be run by a dolphin.
it is unclear.
Uh, there are, so would you say it's a weird movie, Giles?
Yeah, I argue that it's a weird movie. I mean, it's the plot elements are pretty strange collection. How those plot elements fit together is very unlikely, and combining that with the look of the thing, the genre that it is, it's basically sort of a slacker comedy-esque thing going on here, and with a particular kind of neo-electronica soundtrack as well that is, to me, I found pleasantly disorienting trying to pinpoint where this movie felt in space and time.
Yeah, it's a collection of disparate elements, is it not? And the director Julian Glander did all the songs himself, and there is like an alien, one or maybe two are voiced by aliens in an alien language with subtitles. And I believe it's strange as well. And Giles, a lot of critics agree with us on that. If I can just go through a few, let's see if I can find a few quotes. Well, one, it will never be to all tastes. That's a good one. The words surreal and weird appeared here. The New York Times critic, Natalia Winkleman, called it a movie notably unafraid to manifest the weirdest of the weird, no matter what the mullahs of the world have to say. Now, that's a little bit exaggerating. It's not exactly, Alejandro Jodorowsky here, but it is weird. The AV Club called it a surreal sci-fi adventure, yes, but also a surprisingly poignant coming-of-age story. And there is indeed a lot in there also about capitalism, or a satire of capitalism, and probably even more specifically, the gig economy. Those are all various things that we might be able to dig into with the director himself. We have some time, Giles and I, to think up some questions to ask Mr. Glander about this film. Giles, in our last minute before we bring on Mr. Glander, do you have any final thoughts about this movie or anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to hearing some illuminating remarks from the writer, director, score composer, programmer, whatever, the
Animator.
The one-man band, Mr. Glander.
Yeah, and well, now might be a good time. We're at about the midpoint, a little past the midpoint of the broadcast. Now might be a good time to say, hey, like, subscribe, buy our book, watch to the end, put it on several devices and play it simultaneously for the stereo effect. More stuff like that.
Send links to all your friends. Let them know you're cool.
Yeah, share. There you go. So yeah, that should do it. We will be back in just a moment and talk to Mr. Glander. And of course, no time will pass for you, and we'll see you then. So bye-bye.
Cheers.
Hi, this is Greg Smalley back with Giles Edwards and joined by a special guest, Julian Glander of the new coming-of-age film Boys Go to Jupiter, independent animation. It's critically acclaimed. Last I saw, 95% positive on Rotten Tomatoes, so congratulations there. And we have so many questions we could ask about the animation, the music, about your shorts career, which I've just been diving into today, and your biography, but I'd like to let Giles handle most of those questions since he was the primary reviewer on the film. But since we only have a short time, I want to dive right in and ask about what's most important to our viewers, 366 Weird Movies viewers, and that's weirdness. And I don't know how involved you were personally with the marketing campaign, but I noticed the trailer the pull quotes highlight words like otherworldly, surreal, bizarre, and absurd. And since the marketing is leaning into that aspect of the film, let me just ask, did you deliberately set out to create a weird film?
No, I think that's one of the treats or surprises of making any project is you find out that things you thought were very normal are actually strange to other people. I spent so long in this sort of pastel colored version of Florida that when I look up into a normal room, uh, it looks like your black and white Zoom background that you're on now. So no, I'm completely desensitized to it. I think weirdness is obviously very subjective, but I guess it's very close to interestingness, and that's kind of more what I was interested in, for lack of a better way to describe it, is a sense of interestingness, or I guess novelty.
Yeah, I think that's when weirdness works the best, is when it's just naturally flowing out of your personality and being unique and true to yourself rather than trying to play to what's expected of a project like this. So, Giles, I'm going to let you ask most of the questions now if you're ready. You have some.
Sure. Hello, Julian. I'm
Hello,
Giles.
Giles.
I had the pleasure of catching your film last week sometime, I believe. And I guess, yeah, a good way to start here is you mentioned Pastel World. Boys Go to Jupiter has a fairly distinct style to it that, to me, harkened back to a sort of a 90s kind of look, at least, computer graphics wise. So I'm hoping that you might talk a bit about what inspired you to approach your story here through the animation medium, and in particular this very specific kind of let's see, like the Dire Straits "Money for Nothing" that has its look.
That's
I
a
know the
really good
Residents
reference
did,
point. I love it. Yeah.
and the Residents did like "Bad Day on the Midway" and "Freak Show," and those were two things that I was reminded of with this odd kind of, certainly odd for the mid 2020s kind of animation.
Yeah, I think those are some reference points that are they're sort of historical bedrocks for 3D animation. Certainly, Dire Straits' "Money for Nothing." And when they made that music video, I think that was probably very expensive for them to do. And they were hitting up against, at the time, what were the limits of 3D animation. And over here, I guess 40 years later, I'm more coming up against the limits of what my little computer can do. I use Blender, which is it's as powerful as any software, but it's the hardware that kind of has set some limitations for me. So then it became a question of what story can you tell with simple shapes, with this sort of isometric view, and it became a story about sort of the gamified world we live in, or the gamified economy that we live in, and the way we look down on people like they're in The Sims. And in terms of the color, I have to mention that I grew up in Land O'Lakes, Florida, where they filmed Edward Scissorhands. And I used to drive by those houses all the time. And the thing was, they had just built this new subdivision and they painted all the houses pink and green and blue. And then when people bought the houses, they had the option to keep them that way. And every single person just painted them beige to match the
Ooh.
rest. And the castle is not real. Obviously, it's a matte painting, but that neighborhood is very much real.
So this was this pastel was something you were personally familiar with. Let's talk about simple shapes, because that'll segue into one of the more overtly strange parts of this movie, the alien presence to be found throughout Boys Go to Jupiter. Could you talk a little bit about those guys, and uh, how you thought, what prompted you to think them up, and when bringing them to life in this world, did they evolve in any way? Because they're all sort of just these, adorable little shapes that crop up intermittently throughout the movie.
Sure. So when I was writing the movie, I had just gotten two pet baby ducklings, and I was in the process of raising them basically from eggs. And I thought they were so strange. I mean, I thought it was my first time ever having a pet. So I was accessing this sort of new, nurturing side of myself. And at the same time, I had these baby ducks who were just extremely weird. You know, the way they walk and talk, and even just the fact that they kind of come out of the egg like fully programmed. Like, I think that was my big takeaway is like a duck is born and knows everything. Like a duck is not really going to learn anything in its life. It's like already in there. It knows how to swim and what to eat and where to go at night. And that's so different from a person. And then in terms of the design of the aliens, um, the main one, the one that the movie kind of centers on is a donut shape. And to go back to Blender, one of the big rites of passage when you're learning Blender is what's called a donut tutorial, where you go on YouTube and you watch a video of how to make a donut with icing and sprinkles on it. And it's sort of like once you've done that, you really are a Blender user. So I didn't realize it until later on. I was like, oh, of course, this is my donut. I've completed the donut.
And yeah, so our hero, yeah, just to maybe slightly catch up viewers who might be diving in right now and haven't seen the movie. Our hero, Billy 5000, which, from my understanding of the movie, is his legal name. On his birth certificate, you'll see the 5 and 3 zeros there. He is about what, 15 or so, I think.
He's 16, yeah.
16. So high school dropout, and he is busy gigging his way around the streets of his little city. Could you talk a little bit about Billy, who finds this donut at one point and raises it, as I guess you did with your ducklings there, and is doing his best for this fully formed little what's it there. But Billy is he's going through some changes, and he's got at least two elements pulling on him. One is his group of younger friends, and the other is this slightly older girl who works at this juice concern. So could you talk about the inspiration for Billy's setup anyway?
Sure. I think Billy is sort of a version of who I was in high school with a lot of key differences. I never had a baby alien. And more than that, I think I wrote this movie coming out of the pandemic, and I almost felt like I was a teenager again. Like I was feeling a lot of these same coming of agey feelings of not understanding how the world worked anymore, not really understanding the way people interacted, or just like from feeling like I had really gotten life figured out to being completely scrambled and reset. Which is, I think, what adolescence is the leaving of something behind and entering like a new and confusing world. So, yeah, I was kind of accessing those feelings. And I think, Billy is a delivery driver, and he basically, it's like you said, he travels around this town, and while he's delivering this food, he's meeting people and talking to them and he's trying to find a person to be. He's looking for somebody who can show him the way into his adult life. And what he finds is that basically everyone he talks to does not have a full piece of the picture. That it's sort of like a disco ball that everyone is looking at one piece of.
Yeah. So yeah, people interaction. Yeah, I'm reminded just now of say Billy's interaction with Mr. Cretaceous, the owner of the miniature golf course, who in one scene he says something nice to Billy and literally prompts him for the correct socially acceptable reply. So as you say, yeah, looking to figure it out. And Billy, unfortunately, well, as he says, I got nothing. But with like Mr. Cretaceous, Sharon, the older woman with the shoot, she must have ducks then. She has
chickens.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's this sort of small background cast. Could you talk about them briefly? I presume have you known people like that? Is there a Cretaceous golf course near where you grew up?
Sure. So outside of Tampa, there's something called Dinosaur World. And it's basically just a bunch of fiberglass sculptures of dinosaurs. And you pay to kind of go in and look at them and take your picture in front of them. And I think like it really feels to me like they were working on a theme park and then they kind of gave up once they just had the dinosaurs. Like it feels like it's not all there. Those little characters, those three that you mentioned, were specifically written for the cast members who played them. The Cretaceous Holes golf course owner is Joe Pera, who I think really sinks himself into that, or like presents himself in that role so naturally that you kind of fall in love with him, even though he's quite strange. But yeah, all of these characters are sort of they're trying to follow scripts. And again, I think this is a feeling that I've had coming out of the pandemic, is that all of the scripts that we knew have been rewritten. And we're all trying to figure out what they are.
Uh, I just want to jump in real quick because I'll kill myself if I don't ask this question. The guy who orders the hot dogs, um, is that like a fetish that?
I think, okay, this is a good question. So there's a character played by Max Wittert who orders some hot dogs and then asks the main character Billy to chew them up for him. I think the way it's played by Max is quite devious. It has a perverse element to it. But I think it's really more, there's two things I was thinking about. One is the sort of inherent power plays that we're doing when we use these on-demand services, the way that they're kind of dehumanizing to everyone, both the deliverer and the delivery. But I also think of chewing up food for someone as like the most nurturing thing you can do. And there's a moment later in the movie where Billy watches a mama bird chew up the food for a baby bird. And I think he connects those two moments. And again, it helps him along his journey to becoming a nurturing person in a very strange way.
Sorry to interrupt. You can go
Oh,
ahead.
no. It's thank you for reminding me. That memorable character, and of course the memorable hot dog purveyor. Also, so yeah, a lot of great, just sort of 1 to 3 minute characters that are sprinkled throughout here. There's one sort of recurring one. It's different characters, but it's the same voice actor. The inclusion of a Spanish speaker, and in the case of the screener I saw anyway, at any rate, without subtitles. So there were these stretches where I was catching every maybe 10th word because I took enough French to recognize some nouns. What's the deal with the gas store owner, the Brontosaurus skeleton, and possibly a third appearance of this sort of calm? It was a very calm and wise sounding voice, at least.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. So Julio Torres he has multiple roles in the movie. He's a gas station clerk and a Brontosaurus sculpture from the mini golf course we've been talking about. It was a in the studio decision that we made to have him record his lines in Spanish. My producer Payson grew up in Ecuador, so she directed him in those scenes, and I actually don't know what he's saying. I know that someone like said it back to me recently, and I was like, that is completely not what was in the script. But I love it, and it's like you said, it's like you catch every 10th word, and this is the experience living in Florida and really almost anywhere else in America. Is you don't speak the same language as everyone, but you do understand each other. Mm-hmm. I think in the same way that Billy understands when the aliens are talking to him in their alien language. When you're doing something that is wrong at the gas station and someone is yelling at you, the actual content of the words don't really matter. So I really like it certainly is a treat for the Spanish speaking audience because they get something that I don't know out of it, but it's also just, I think, part of the texture of life in a place like that.
Okay, cool. No, yeah, it was a great little touch. I guess with texture, there's it would be remiss of us to not mention the musical element of this, because there are a number of songs that occur fairly regularly in this film that many of them sung by Billy himself, and of course one number that stuck out in my mind, the power ballad about eggs. When you were writing this, forming this, were you always planning this to be a musical? How did you think that was going to work within your movie?
Sure. I think before I even knew that this was a movie, I knew that someday, if I ever made a movie, that it would be a musical. I love the format. I love the fact that it's so widely accepted in like one of the most mainstream film genres that characters can just sort of leave the world and enter a music video and like let you into their inner thoughts in a way that like there's almost no other way to do that. So the music was written pretty late. It was basically the script had question marks in it where some scenes needed connective tissue. Sometimes it felt like the action was going too fast and I wanted to slow things down. And then, yeah, it was a texture thing where we really built the songs around what was in the movie. So Mia Folek sings this song and there's a buzzy kind of synth in it that's corresponding to the bees that are flying around her. And there's this sort of industrial beat under it because she's in this big sort of reverberous factory. And, that we kind of built out the whole sonic soundscape of the movie that way. And like one kind of reference point that I would say like the whole movie sounds like is like an ice cream truck that's kind of far away. Like this sort of twinkling bell through a distorted speaker that you have to chase after because it's getting away from you. And that's kind of what's happening to Billy's childhood, I guess.
All right. Hey, we are running a little bit late. There are at least two questions we want to get in before the end.
Let's do rapid fire. Yeah.
The first one is we always want to ask everybody, what's next? What do you have coming up now that this is in the can? What are you working on?
I am pretty superstitious about this, but I will say I'm renovating a house right now and I've become really obsessed with hammers and I'm thinking about starting a hammer company to make the perfect hammer.
What? Oh.
So moving from building through programming into building in the real world.
It's nice to rotate, it's nice to do a little to stretch your arms once in a while.
Giles, you want to ask that last question?
Yeah. I think you mentioned it briefly, but we do like to wrap up with our final hard-hitting question. Can you tell us your hometown and can you recommend a restaurant there?
Okay. I lived outside Tampa in Odessa when I was a teenager. The restaurant that I really liked, I don't know if it's still open. It was called Mimi's Alaskan Tacos. And I think it was in Ybor City, and they were like deep fried tacos. And I have a punch card from 20 years ago that's one taco away from a free taco. So if they're still open, I'll go down there someday and redeem that.
That is fantastic. So I hope, everyone, I guess, keep your fingers crossed that Odessa can still give you a nice Alaskan style deep fried.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
All right. Hey, well, thank you so much.
They're there.
Excellent.
Oh, great. Oh, you can get that final taco. All right. I have it delivered, and then you can have the guy chew it up.
Cash tips appreciated.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys. This was a real treat.
Yeah,
it's great to have you, and best of luck with your Hammer Company or any other movies you make.
I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. We'll see you later.
We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Weird. Yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Weird.